Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Detroit Regional Chamber, Sandy Barua.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for your support for MICHauto over the years. Thank you for all that you're going to do in the year to come. And thank you for coming out on an early Tuesday morning to celebrate the work of MICHauto and to hear about what MICHauto has in plan for the next year or so. So we're delighted that you're all here today. Now, obviously, we wouldn't be here today without our fantastic sponsors. Our sponsors make our organization run. They make events like this at the beautiful Detroit Athletic Club possible. So our thanks to the Michigan Economic Development Corporation and their Planet M program as our signature sponsor. And our supporting sponsors, Continental Structural Plastics, Invika, Mala, and Phoenix Contact. So thank you, and if you get a round of applause for all of our great sponsors, please. So one of the reasons why we do this event every year, the MICHauto Annual event, is that it gives us an excuse to show off a little bit of the work that MICHauto does. And one of the signature pieces that MICHauto has been doing for years is the Automobility report. Now, the Automobility report is actually at your tables, and you will see it there. And it is our annual report on Michigan's automotive and mobility assets and data. And this is a signature piece not just for MICHauto and the Detroit Regional Chamber. This is a piece that is used by the governor of the state of Michigan, both our past governor and our new governor, along with the MEDC, to promote the assets of Michigan's automotive and mobility assets, not just in the United States, but around the world. And in fact, this document is translated into multiple languages. And as our team travels the world and sits in offices talking about investing in the state of Michigan, this report is often seen in, on reception tables and in executive desks in multiple languages across the country, across the world. And that's a really fun experience for all of us who get to see that. And as you can see through the report, and we change the format a little bit every year, and this year we have a particularly great format, so I really do encourage you to kind of thumb through it. But it really highlights and documents all of the ways that Michigan leads in the automotive and mobility space. And one of the things that we all know, and you all are attached to the automotive or mobility industry in some form or fashion, otherwise you wouldn't be in this room, you know that Michigan is the #1 region in the world for the concentration of OEM and Tier 1 suppliers. You know that this is the #1 region in the world for the concentration of engineers in the automotive space. You know that this is one of the leading regions in the world for the testing and deployment of next-generation mobility. And you know that this is one of the states in the country that is leading in its progressiveness in terms of legislation that allows the testing and deployment of next-generation connected vehicles on our public roads. And you know that we have the greatest concentration of testing facilities, places like ACM and M-City, which are signature assets that this state has that very few other places in the world have. And this is the report that documents all of that. And we're proud to share it with you. And we're also proud to bring together both the traditional automotive industry and the next generation mobility industry in one report. And we're glad that you get to see it. You're the first ones to have this year's version of it. Now, as you look at the report, if you're noticing that it has a really cool cover, well, it's because of a young man named Tyler Osgood. And Tyler, I hear that you're here today. Can you stand up? And there he is, Tyler Osgood. So everyone, Tyler Osgood is at the College for Creative Studies, and we've had a long-term relationship with CCS and their president, Rick Rogers. And occasionally, we are able to tap one of their fantastic young talents to do a little art for us. And Tyler was gracious enough to do the cover art for this year's Michigan is Automobility report. So Tyler, thank you so much for sharing your immense talents with us. We're greatly, greatly appreciative of it. So, and you're going to see this, yeah, please go ahead. So you're going to see this work in a couple different places, not just on the report today. So we're going to take advantage of Tyler's good work and use it in a couple different ways that you're going to see later on in the program today. But I want Tyler to know that this cover, his art, is going to be literally shown around the world. So this is the MICHauto Annual Report. And MICHauto has been a tremendous success for the Detroit Regional Chamber, and we are so incredibly proud of the work that Glenn Stevens and the MICHauto team have done for the years. But MICHauto actually goes back to the year 2007. And for those of you who have been around MICHauto for a while, know the lore of the story that MICHauto was started by a handful of people in Tom Manganello's garage over a case of beer. It's actually a true story. It actually was started, by Tom and a handful of other folks, and there was actually originally 4 investors in MICHauto that Tom brought together in 2007. Now, as you may have read in the newspapers, by the time 2007, 2008 rolled around, there was a little bit of a challenge in the auto industry and the economy. Some of you may have read about it in the newspaper. So MICHauto really didn't take off as it was originally intended to, but the foundation was there, and the interest was there. So when 2012 came along, the Detroit Regional Chamber took MICHauto under its wing. And a short while later, we were able to bring Glenn Stevens on board and really start to build the program. So what originally started as 4 investors and then grew under Tom's leadership out of his garage and then shrank during the Great Recession, had about 34 investors when we inherited the program in 2012. And then after Glenn came on board, the program really began to take off. And one of the great things that MICHauto did was that MICHauto was the first statewide program in the state of Michigan to highlight the importance of connected vehicles and next-generation autonomous vehicles. We were talking about the transformational nature of that technology and what it was going to do to the industry before most of the industry was actually talking about it. And that led to a whole bunch of different things. One, it led to the state of Michigan taking a much more aggressive role in its promotion of Michigan's not just automotive assets, but next-generation mobility assets. Thanks to the work of MICHauto, the state of Michigan, under Governor Rick Snyder, created an auto office right in the governor's office, which didn't exist before. And for the state of Michigan not to have someone dedicated in the governor's office to the automotive and mobility industry was just a crime. But that happened. Then the state of Michigan went further, and they developed the Planet M campaign. And that was a great thing because now the state is engaged in promoting our automotive and our mobility industry. And MICHauto took the lead back in 2016, working with the governor's office and the MEDC and MDOT and our friends at the Business Leaders for Michigan to create the Michigan Mobility Initiative, which was a statewide initiative across multiple entities, including MICHauto. Actually, MICHauto was leading it, to organize a statewide effort around next-generation mobility so we didn't have a disparate effort around the state with someone doing this, someone doing that, and someone doing something else. It was being able to brought together. And then the governor actually stepped in, Rick Snyder, stepped in and created a statewide mobility roundtable that Glenn and I served on with just 10 other people that were coordinating the state's efforts around next-generation mobility. So MICHauto has done a tremendous amount. And when we first got Glenn on board, back in 2012, 2013, he had the world's smallest office, and he was just there by himself. Now we have a team of 3 people dedicated at MICHauto, plus we have chamber staff, marketing staff, resource development staff, a research staff, all dedicated to helping MICHauto grow. And today we have 120 investors, and the program is going strong. And over these years, it used to be a program that the Chamber had to invest in to make sure it was running. Now MICHauto is actually paying for itself. Over the last couple of years, it has now become a break-even program because of you, because of the investors who have stepped up. So given the success of MICHauto, other people have got involved in this space, and that's a good thing. Lots of organizations that we know, that we work with, that we support, and new organizations have stepped in to look at what is going on in the automotive space. 8 years ago, there was hardly anybody in Michigan really focusing on our automotive and our mobility assets, but not so anymore. So the challenge going forward is, how do we refine MICHauto's strategic purpose? How do we get to the point where MICHauto is doing maybe a handful of fewer things, but doing them with a lot more impact? And Glenn has a plan to do that. And to help him do that, the Chamber is going to make another financial investment in MICHauto. Over the next 27 months, we're going to invest about $500,000 from our piggy bank to support MICHauto's continued growth in the state of Michigan. And some of the three key things that we want to do with our investment is, first of all, really ensure that MICHauto is a statewide program. And that means that we're going to have someone based on the west side of the state. And our financial plan includes a partnership with The Right Place, and we will have a person dedicated sitting in The Right Place's office to handle the contacts on the west side of the state for MICHauto. The other thing is that we want a dedicated person in our Lansing office dedicated just to automotive and mobility issues. So you, as MICHauto members and investors, have a contact in Lansing to handle issues that might be very specific to the automotive and mobility industry. And then we want to make sure that MICHauto has the marketing resources that it needs going forward. So that's our general plan, to spend about $500,000. And so we hope that over time that'll be matched by additional investors from the automotive community. But we are willing to put our money where our mouth is because we believe in MICHauto. We thank you for believing in MICHauto, and thank you again for being here today. And it is now my pleasure to introduce my friend, my colleague, and the head of MICHauto, Glenn Stevens.
Well, good morning. Can everybody hear me okay? Great. Thanks, Sandy. So we spend a lot of time together, Sandy and I. He's been very, very actively engaged with what we're working on. And thanks to his commitment way back when, MICHauto has the legs it has and the plan moving forward. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a report card today, but kind of a little bit non-traditionally. First of all, I want to thank all the investors we have. We call you investors because we aren't really looking at members. You make an investment in us, and we make an investment in the industry. And just a couple things I want to point out back to when we had 4 and then we had 34. Rob Luce is here with us. Many of you know Rob. So when I joined the Chamber and the team, Rob was there. And without Rob, I'm not sure we would be where we're at today. He gave it a firm foundation, and thanks for doing that, man. So our investors. These are the companies. These are just some of them. There are 120 plus now and growing. But we also want to thank our volunteers. So I want to run through this a little bit. Tom Anganello, where are you? Could you stand real quick? Tom, thank you for your help. I see Terry. Terry, is Bob here, Townsend? Well, you can be Bob Townsend today. So Terry and Bob from Denso, thank you for helping lead the advocacy committee. And then our talent awareness committee is run by committee. But we're really fortunate to have 3 really engaged industry people. And I'd like Christine Longroy from SME, Whitney Lejeski from Omron Automation, and Desiree Schultz from Fakori, if you could stand real quick too. I know one's way in the back. So we rely on these people to help us not just set agendas, but to guide us. And our team has done a really good job of kind of making sure that we reformat those meetings and that they're impactful and the time that you spend and you invest in us, because the output and the body of work that we work on together, it comes from those committees. So the body of work. It's a busy chart, but we have been involved in a lot of things. And so I just want to kind of step through them kind of from a report card standpoint. First, talent, because that is the most important ingredient, which you'll hear a little bit about today in the panel discussion. It doesn't happen without the people in the room, without the people in the plants, and the people developing products and testing products. So we are very committed with our Discover Auto program. Once a year, we'll bring students together. We had a summit for students last fall. We're in the process of planning what that's going to look like. And you also know that we do perception surveys, because we can't really address the messaging unless we understand what the perceptions are. And frankly, as we've moved through in time, we've moved the needle with regards to the perception of the industry as a high-tech global industry, but we need to keep moving that needle. So that's really important work. But our commitment to the talent pipeline remains number one for us. The other area of focus in the top right is policy. And that's not just in DC and not just in Lansing. That's to make sure that we're working with local communities and we're working with state communities and working with federal agencies to make sure that we have the right policy in place for businesses to grow and for the industry to grow. And one of those things that we've been working on for the last few years is, believe it or not, up until just a couple years ago, there was not an auto caucus in Lansing. The federal government, there was an auto caucus in Lansing, but we did not have, there was a fisherman's caucus, I think there was a beer caucus, but there was not an auto caucus. Believe it or not, there was. Now, we are privileged to have 4 new leaders of the auto caucus that have kicked off, and they are energized and they are working on behalf of the industry. They come from kind of the 4 corners of the state, and they're from different parts of life, and they're bipartisan. And I know we have one of them here, and maybe 2, but Senator Mallory McMurrow is with us. If you could stand, please. Thank you. And is Representative Tate here? Yes, he is. Joe Tate from Detroit. I don't think Wayne Schmidt is here from Traverse City, but he would be the 3rd, and then Representative Jim Lilly from Holland. So they come from different areas of the state, they come from different backgrounds, and they're working very closely on behalf of you, okay, in Lansing. The next thing I want to talk about is awareness, and that's making sure that people understand the economic impact of the industry, they understand what's in their backyard from a community standpoint, but they understand, again, that this is a high-tech global growth industry. So our focus on building the awareness of the industry, the economic impact, and particularly the assets. Because if you look at that report that's in front of you, there is no place in the world where you will find this concentration of automotive assets. It does not exist. In fact, I did a little quiz last weekend with a group that we were speaking to from Lansing, and I asked everyone how many OEMs. First of all, I had to explain what an OEM was, because we use a lot of these. It's true, we use a lot of these in our world, but I asked how many OEMs are either headquartered or have their global R&D or a North American R&D center in Michigan. And there were 4, 5, 6 guesses. The answer is 18, okay? And we include Rivian in that 18. But there are 18 global OEMs with either their headquarters or a presence here now, including companies like Toyota. So the other thing I want to talk about is next generation mobility, which you'll hear a lot about today and you're going to continue to hear a lot about. But our focus has been not just to promote the auto industry and make sure that we retain and we grow what we have, but if we don't develop the industry that's developing around us, we miss 2 opportunities. One, technology can solve global problems. Whether they're hyperurbanization, scarcity of resources, demographic shifts, mobility plays a role in that. The second is economic opportunity. And you can look up the numbers, but basically the global auto industry is looked at as a $3 trillion industry today. If you look into the future, the not so distant future, personal mobility in a shared use economy is projected to be anywhere from a $7 to a $10 trillion industry. That's why you're seeing the convergence of the auto and tech industry. That's why you're seeing non-traditional companies come into the space. And connected, automated, shared, and electrified, those are the keys for us to be leaders too. So that's why we focus on that area too. So a little bit of a review of what we're doing, but I really want to talk to you more about where we're going and how we're going to get there. So what we've done is, let's put a plan together. Back when Sandy talked about how we put the mobility initiative together, it's the same thing. How do you build a plan? Well, first of all, you step back and you take a look. So we did a lot of internal reviews about what we're doing today, but we've been speaking to you. We've been listening to you as investors in the community about what are we doing, what do we need to do, where are the white spaces, where do we make the most impact. The second thing we did is we benchmarked. And it says competitive landscape. These aren't competitors, but there are a lot of associations and a lot of different companies and agencies doing different things. Planet M, Workforce Intelligence Network, Automation Alley, CAR, OESA. One of the rules that we've always had from day one, Rob and I did, is never duplicate or replicate what others are doing. Try and find the synergy. And now with our team now, that's what we try to do. But really to understand the landscape, to know where you're doing, what you're doing, and make sure that you fill that white space and you make an impact. That's why we did it. And some of you have seen the chart where we analyzed who's doing what and how they're doing it, whether it's a core competency and a strength. And the last thing we did the last couple months is we've convened executives. We've done listening sessions. We've brought people together and said, this is what we've seen, this is what we've benchmarked, this is what we're looking at doing. Are we directionally going the right way? And many of you in this room have been involved in that process. And then just last week, we had our steering committee, which is our board for MICHauto, together, and we said, this is what we've seen, this is what we have, this is where we're going, and we had an active dialogue. So we were out here, and we're here right now, so now is how do we get to the point of where we need to be? So this is a timeline, and this is where we're at today. So first of all, we want to refine the strategy. It's not a reboot, it's really a narrowing of focus to make greater impact, as Sandy said. So we're doing that, and that we're doing over the next month or so in preparation for Magna. The other thing we've looked at is, do we have the right governance structure? Do we have the right investment levels? Do we have the right tax classification for the status of it? All of that has been looked at, and that's being refined too. And then the most important thing is how we calibrate the staff and align the staff. And I'll stop right there for a second because first of all, in addition to the staff that puts this together today, Andrea and Bev and Wendy's back here running things as she always is, thank you to all you for what you do, and to our research team and to our marketing team for what they did with the report and do every day. But there's some people that you meet and talk to every day. So Caitlin Davis. And Jennifer Daney. Where's Jennifer? Back in the way back there. They're the day-to-day team with me. They're the ones that are in my office telling me you can't do that, you need to do it this way, it works better. But they really do help me directionally. We're a team, and that's the three core people. But we have the extended team, and we also have Catherine Smith. Where is Catherine? Catherine's in the back there. I'm looking into the light here. Catherine heads up our fundraising. And somebody who's incredibly moved the needle, because I know most of you have heard from her, and you will continue to, is Tabitha Mensch. Where is Tabitha? Back in the back too? Tabitha's head of engagement, and she works with Lori Ostro and our team there, but Tabitha's focused on making sure that you are getting value and you are connected to what we do. So there's Tabitha, she's back there now. So aligning those resources with where we're at moving forward, that is really, really important for us. And then lastly is making sure that we enhance the brand. I don't very much get the what is MICHauto question. We used to get that a lot. I mean, we've done a lot of great work, whether it's through what we communicate or the work we do or the presence we have, where I think our name is recognized in what we stand for. And what we stand for is to promote, retain, and grow this industry. But we have to continue to project what we do and how we do it and what the industry means. And so we are going to commit to the brand, and that means the auto industry and the mobility industry brands as well as the MICHauto brand, and that's our plan moving forward. So that's our timeline. That's how we're going to get to where we're right here as we head into the second half of this year. And as we have the new resources that Sandy mentioned, and this is what we're going to be doing. So I wanted to share that with you, what we've done and where we're going. But lastly, I just want to leave you with this point. We've got a lot of people that are involved with this, and you'll hear a little bit about that at the end. But the most important thing is that we work for you. And that's our job. And we get up every day, and our job is to promote this industry and champion this industry. I mean, it's our greatest asset. We all know that. But we can't take it for granted. Michigan has gone through many inflection points, and many of them we weren't ready for, whether it be new car companies coming to build and sell vehicles here, the gas crisis, whether it was the financial meltdown. I think we would all agree that the companies that lead our industry, that build parts and employ people, are run a lot differently today than they ever have been. But it's still an inflection point. Mobility is an inflection point. Economic change, political climate change is an inflection point. So you can't stay the same. I think many of us have heard for many, many years, well, we need to diversify away from the auto industry, right? We've heard that. I would argue, and we would argue, that the greatest platform we have for diversification is the auto industry. Because if you look at artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, Industry 4.0, all of that's happening right here. Why shouldn't we build that out of the cluster we have already? So that's our focus. That's our commitment to you. This is how we're going to do it. And I just wanted to give you a dose of that today and give you an update on that. So that's it for me. We've got a great panel. We've got a great keynote. And we'll finish up with our Volunteer of the Year award. But thank you all for being here today. Thanks.